Good afternoon. Welcome to episode 6 of the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast. I am your host, Anthony Wright, coming to you from the cloudy but comfy confines of Atlantic City, New Jersey. Hoping that you're enjoying your weekend, whether you're in your commute to and from work, picking the kids up, wherever you may be. Hope that you're enjoying the day, and thank you for listening. As always, like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel, and thank you for the support, guys. I want to hop right into it. Like I said, a little bit of a late start in the day. I usually do a morning episode, but had a bunch of things going on today, so I want to make sure I hop right into things. We're picking up on our 32 teams in 13 days segment, which is ironic because we only have 6 days left leading into the draft. So be that as it may, we're getting ready and we're prepping full speed ahead. We're going to pick up right where we left off. And where we left off was the Las Vegas Raiders, the 8-9 Las Vegas Raiders. I cannot state any more frankly than I can. Josh McDaniels is by far one of the worst fucking coaches in the NFL. And again, when you really think of guys within the past 15 years that have had head coaching positions that have done nothing outside of win with Tom Brady and get a job, this guy repeatedly was getting coaching looks and hires and recommendations, and I never understood how or why. Offense ranked 23rd in yards. Now everybody's going to say, but Antonio Pierce coached the last 9 games. Yeah, right. And remember, y'all, it's 17. The math ain't mathing. So regardless of what, that he coached a bad ass offense where they couldn't do a damn thing. And I don't understand why in the world people keep thinking that Josh McDaniels is a good coach. But again, that's a diatribe. I don't want to go on a rant. We want to talk about the Raiders. He's out of there. New head coach Antonio Pierce is in. They brought on Luke Getsy, offensive coordinator, previously worked in Chicago. Was supposed to be helping out Justin Fields. Now he's in Las Vegas, so we'll see how that works out. Interesting enough, assistant head coach is Marvin Lewis, long-term former coach of the Cincinnati Bengals way back when. Very interested to see how the philosophy of the team is. You guys remember how Marvin Lewis's philosophy was, and Cincinnati was very, it had a hierarchy, very CEO structured, business-like. So we're going to see how that's run, maybe a tighter ship in Las Vegas than we've seen within the past, 10 to 20 years. Defensive coordinator Patrick Graham is back, which again is a big plus. I like him. I think he's a very good defensive coordinator. Interestingly enough, Rob Ryan, former long-term defensive coordinator for the Saints and the Cowboys, he has come back, also for the Browns as well. He has come back, and he is now the special defensive assistant to Patrick Graham. So, very interesting to see how those philosophies work and coalesce on offense and defense and what the plan of attack is for the Raiders going into this year. It's going to be a big year for them because they got to get it right. This finally another time where they're in the top 10 again. Last year they got Tyree Wilson. A lot of Raiders fans felt like that was a waste of a pick with Jalen Carter and some of the guys floating around there. And, jury's still out. He's still young. Still got time, but yeah, time's ticking. General manager Tom Telesco is coming back now, which is ironic because he was the Chargers GM for a while. People kind of felt like he was going to probably take some time off, and he hopped right into that Las Vegas job, which I think was great for him. I'm interested to see the type of acquisitions that Tom Telesco makes as the general manager of the Raiders, because if you remember the past several years while he was the Chargers GM, he made a lot of acquisitions, big splashy acquisitions, and some solid free agent acquisitions, role and depth player wise. So if he could bring that to the Raiders, that'd be great. They need it. They've needed the talent more than anything. They've drafted in some spots well, but overall as a whole, they haven't, so, it'd be interesting to see. But they have 8 draft picks going into this draft, which, guys, I got to be honest with you. When I looked into it, I wasn't sure. I thought, and I do my homework and I'm pretty thorough with this as far as researching these teams. I was pretty sure they had less than that, but come to find out, I've checked 3 times. They have 8 picks going into this draft, and ironically, 2 going in the 7th round. Sounds like to me they might be using that to move around later on. Who knows? Could stay in that spot, but we'll see. They have $22 million in cap space, which, again, is fantastic. They're going to need that, especially going into next year. It can help them, definitely after the draft, making any type of free agent acquisitions or, anything that, they may need to add to the team, waiver wire guys, things like that. So having that space is always key. Also, another tidbit and a note for you guys to know on the coaching specter, they brought in Rich Scangarello, former assistant quarterbacks coach in Philadelphia, San Francisco, Atlanta. he's come in now to help out there and help aid, not also in the search but the development of this quarterback, whether it be Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, or whomever they bring in the draft. And I definitely definitively believe they will be bringing a quarterback in for this draft. So, Antonio Pierce, like I said, shout out to him because got his hands full, but did a hell of a job last year. Ended the season 5-4. He looked great. Kind of interested to wonder why, though, he was threatening Patrick Mahomes and threatening, like, some Jordan rules type shit or, whatever goofy shit. I don't remember exactly, y'all. Y'all probably know better than me. The point being, though, when I read the article, I was thrown off. You're threatening a team that's won 2 Super Bowls in the past 2 years, back to back, going for their third. And, yeah, you beat them on Christmas, but let's be honest. What does it really matter when they're holding up the trophy at the end of the year? So, very interested to see how, I kind of think it was more or less a culture setting, thing. He's trying to set a tone for the team and let it be known going forward. This is how we're going to address things. This is how we're going to go about it. But, be that as it may, who knows? We'll see. Patrick Mahomes is, him and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce and Chris Jones and, McDuffie, all them boys they got over there. Y'all got your hands full. Jim Harbaugh being now there with the Chargers. Sean Payton trying to get the Broncos out of, the depths of the basement of the AFC West. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. Having said all that, what is the plan at quarterback? They brought in 4 quarterbacks for a visit. Jordan Travis, Bo Nix. They brought in Michael Penix Jr. and Michael Ayers from Sanford. So, as I just previously touched on, they're definitely going to be bringing a quarterback in. The question is whom, when, and where. So, because I've always just believed Aiden O'Connell was not the answer. I give him credit. Serviceable, backup, did his job. But anybody who knows, he's not an NFL starting quality caliber quarterback. So this was something that needed to be done. So credit and shout out to the Raiders for, doing their due diligence and looking to try to solve that problem. Because I strongly feel they're one of the teams where once they solve that quarterback problem, they're going to be a contending team. And it's going to be very hard to stop them. But we'll highlight very quickly on some of the other things that are inhibiting them from being where they need to be. One of the other things I wanted to touch on too, which I think a lot of people aren't really focusing on now, but it will come into focus later. What's up with Davante Adams? I mean, I don't know if y'all really noticed or not. Trade deadline last year, his name was floated to the Jets. Early this offseason, it's being floated. He might be going to the Jets. All these weeks pass, nothing from his agent, nothing from him. He definitively comes out last week and says, hey, I'm not going nowhere. I want to be here in Vegas. This is where I'm at. I believe the man when he said he wanted to go back and play in front of his family. I think the money's right. I think his living situation is good. I believe he's comfortable. I think as a competitor, he's in hell. And I just feel like unless they're able to kind of right things this year, keep an eye on that situation because he might be a guy they might get off at some point. And who knows, maybe they thinking we can get rid of him, during the draft. Maybe they thinking we can get rid of him during the trade deadline if things ain't working out. But I just feel like this might be the last year for Davante Adams in a Raiders uniform. Going forward, defense needs to be addressed. Now, interestingly enough, the defense was ranked 9th last year, but in passing yards, they were ranked 15th. So, i.e., what does that tell you? Defensive line, front 7, linebackers, attacking, doing their job. Defensive backs, not so much. 13 interceptions last year for the defensive backfield for the Raiders, which is fucking terrible. I mean, 13 interceptions. There are some high school teams that get more interceptions than that in the season. So, I understand that the passing attack is vicious nowadays, and everybody's throwing the ball, and you got to prepare. And you're not going to be prepared every time, but I mean, damn. 17 games, 13 interceptions, you can do better. You can do better. So, with that being said, defensive line, too. They grabbed Christian Wilkins. We'll touch on the free agent acquisitions in a moment, but they grabbed Christian Wilkins, for the interior, which is great. Something that they needed for the defensive line. Somebody I think that's definitely going to help Max Crosby because last year, just what he had wasn't enough. I mean, they produced a decent amount of sacks last year, but Crosby himself had 14 and a half. Malcolm Kuntz had 8 sacks. The third leading sack getter had 3.5. And that was Tyree Wilson, your rookie draft pick out of Texas A&M, who some Raiders fans feel like shouldn't have been the selection, definitely should have been somebody else. But, Jalen Carter, who knows, whomever, I don't know. But a lot of people feel like, Tyree Wilson definitely shouldn't have been the pick. And again, I'm not one of those type of people that feel like he can't turn it around this year. I'm just saying to you, more or less, people feel like he ain't get it done, and he probably ain't gonna get it done. And it might have been a wasted pick by McDaniels and crew. So, be that as it may, they're gonna probably have to add a wide receiver. Looking at it, they had Devontae Adams 1144, 8 touchdowns. Jacoby Myers 807, 8 touchdowns. But your third leading receiver was your rookie tight end, and he had 304 yards. So you need more people. So looking at it, as far as draft, as who they brought in, receiver wise, they've only had in for a visit Brendan Rice, son of Jerry Rice, that we've touched on in previous episodes. As you've heard, he's been in for a lot of visits. Interesting, because I feel like that's a position where it's not a desperate need. And maybe that's indicative because they feel like everything it takes is going to work out. But I just feel like you need to address that position. Devontae Adams is a little older, still productive, but a little older. Jacoby Myers, productive, serviceable, but he's not a 1,200, 1,300 yard receiver. And your tight end was your third leading receiver, and he had 300 yards, 304 yards. So it's not enough. It's not sustainable for you to actually beat good teams. So it's things they're going to have to address, things that they're going to have to definitely look at. But because looking at that offense, shit show last season. Again, Josh McDaniels, guru, gets all this credit. Keep this in mind: 23rd in offense, 23rd in yards. That's getting Jimmy Garoppolo instead of keeping Derek Carr, which was, paired up with your star wide receiver, looks good, moving your offense. Your defense sucks. That's why you were losing. And you don't know a damn thing about defense, so you just figure, let me get the quarterback. You weren't getting Tom Brady, so I don't know why you got rid of the quarterback. Because again, as previously stated, without Tom Brady, this man is ass. So, be that as it may, they're going to have to address the offense. It was bad. Third down percentage was bad last year. 24th in the league. 24th in red zone. Ironically, though, they were 5th in the league on fourth down percentage. So it lets you know when they took risks, they hit, but they didn't take enough risks. And the risks that they did take was very minimal and inconsequential to their season. So defensively, 27th in third down percentage, 23rd on fourth down percentage, and also 26th in red zone percentage, which, you're not beating Mahomes or Justin Herbert. I mean, hell, they blew the Chargers out late in the year. We kind of knew the Chargers more or less kind of quit, but this was just bad football. You know what I mean? No way to shape it up or try to skin it. It is just bad football. And it's going to be major improvements. It's going to continuously be needed to be added to this roster for them to be elite and in contention in the AFC. Because, again, it's just not enough in the AFC now and today to beat and compete and beat teams the way they need to. Having said all that, they brought in a ton of defensive linemen, brought in a ton of cornerbacks in for their top 30 visits. Again, not a shock. These are things that they need to add and improve on. And they're not dumb. They're very cognizant of what happened. If they had these things a year, 2 years prior, probably would have had better playoff success. Probably would have been in the playoffs, not just, 1 year out of 3 or 1 year out of 2, however you want to, formulate it. But either way, they've been in the playoffs once in the past 2 or 3 years. So, be that as it may, free agent acquisitions. Christian Wilkins, as I briefly touched on, great pickup, from the Dolphins. Young guy, Pro Bowler. Guy that can be an all-pro, guy that I think defines what the Raiders are looking for in a defensive tackle. So great acquisition there. Gardner Minshew, former backup to the Colts, Eagles, Jaguars. Having him there, I think is tremendous. Gardner Minshew is in my opinion, he's not a great quarterback, but he has a lot of traits and qualities that you like, and he can win you some games, and he can carry a team, long enough, sustain, more or less. Having said all that, they also brought in Alexander Mattison, which Alexander Mattison last year was horrible. And when you're in a contract year and you know that you're playing for your money and you put up the numbers that he put up, so to me, this is just probably just another body. Who knows if he even makes it throughout the year? I don't know. Brought in defensive tackle Adam Butler, center Andre Jones, my man Cody Whitehair, guard, brought him back. John Jenkins, defensive tackle, tight end Harrison Bryant they brought in, and last but not least, running back Amir Abdullah to round out the free agent acquisitions for the Raiders. Departures, guys, I must say, as far as departures go, out of all the teams where I've looked at a list where it's like guys they let go, where it's like, damn, this might fucking hurt, or damn, this is going to potentially like sting them. This is the only team where I felt like all the additions were way better than the departures. Jimmy Garoppolo, out of there. Hunter Renfro, and I hope everything works out for you, brother. I know your confidence is shattered because you were coached by Josh McDaniels and he tried to use you like Wes Welker, and you're not exactly Wes Welker. So, but nonetheless, Hunter Renfro, out of there. Brian Hoyer, out of there. Jerry Tillery, going. So, I mean, looking at that list, no major loss there, and looking at the additions, these are all the guys that can add and help this team. But without drafting the cornerback position, without addressing the D-line, without addressing the quarterback position, without those three things, I kind of just feel like, they're just going to be wallowing again. Wide receiver, again, is a need too, but maybe not as prescient as, getting quarterback, D-lineman, and cornerback or defensive back, for lack of a better word. So very interesting to see. But the Raiders going to have their hands full. I'm interested to see how the draft is going to play out for them and what they do and the type of moves they make. But next, we'll be leading into the New Orleans Saints. Them Saints. Who going to beat them Saints? Nobody but themselves, because I tell you, to be 9-8, to have the 9th-ranked offense and the 8th-ranked defense, and to try to understand how this team did not make the playoffs is just egregious and crazy in itself beyond belief. Returning head coach Mickey Loomis. Oh, excuse me. That's general manager Mickey Loomis. My apologies. Returning head coach. He's returning as well, Mickey Loomis. But returning head coach Dennis Allen. Offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak, son of Gary Kubiak. Defensive coordinator Joe Woods. All these guys are returning. Guys were there a year ago. Trying to keep this thing afloat, keep it going, running it back. Hopefully they figure with health this team will be better, because I must say, reading the stats and remembering what I watched from this team last year and looking at it at the end of the year, it was kind of insane that this team blew their chance the way they did and missed the playoffs, and the Bucs just took off and they just, crash burned into the, pit of fire and hellfire and brimstone and just out of there. It was crazy. But undisciplined football, it seems like to me, has been their problem outside of injuries. 96 penalties for 846 yards. Keep this in mind, and you're probably noticing this theme if you've been watching and noticing. All the bad teams have a shitload of penalties for high yardage marks, because you're undisciplined, you're playing bad, you're giving away yards. New Orleans, there's no reason in the world they should have had this many penalties. Dennis Allen, if you've ever watched any of their videos in practice or you've watched any of his camp practices, preaches discipline. So that's egregious. That's just, it shouldn't have happened. Third down percentage, they were 15th. They were 15th in the league on third down. Fourth down, they were 22nd, which not good. It's just middle of the pack. These are not things that are going to help you sustain and win. So you're kind of starting to see why they struggle. And also 18th in red zone percentage, which again, I guess missing Kamara early in the season, Michael Thomas not being exactly what he was, but still being somewhat serviceable. Chris Olave, taking the mantle and kind of stepping up. I don't know. There's no way in hell with those type of weapons that you should have those type of numbers on offense. So could be quarterback play, could be coaching. I don't know, but they on the hot seat this year. Dennis Allen is literally on the hot seat, and he's gonna have to figure it out. And again, team was 9-8, and I know they suffer injuries. I know there was some bad play, but a lot of his coaching decisions have left a lot to be desired. And Dennis Allen has had the fortunate, thing of, well, hey, look, the team was 9-8. I kind of took over, and things have gotten better. They haven't solved the quarterback position. The defense has gotten consistently better, and they've had their moments where they've looked horrible, but they've gotten considerably better. The offense has gotten worse. He probably thought for a while, well, I can run it with Jameis. As long as the offense is serviceable, my defense can win me games. That ain't happening in today's NFL. You got to do more. More is required. So Dennis Allen's definitely on the hot seat. Looking at their roster, though, and like some of their free agency moves, they're going to have to address the offensive line. Too many injuries and not knowing the status of Ryan Ramczyk. And, I've read multiple reports, USA Today, Sports Illustrated, where it's looking like he may have a career-threatening injury and he's going to be out of there. So, damn shame for the Saints that they losing a great player like that, great tackle, but his replacement is in this draft, I believe, and you may have to find him. So keep that in mind. Is Derek Carr the guy? Because, as I stated, for your offense to have these type of numbers and be as productive as they were, one of the things that just sticks in my memory and I won't forget was the game where, and I don't quote me, I don't know if it was the Colts or if they were playing the Titans. I forget who they were playing this past season, but he kind of tried to show Chris Olave up by stating Olave ran the wrong route and he was just extra obligatory and egregious with the hand movement and grabbing the helmet and the chin strap pop. Derek Carr, you ain't that. You ain't that. And I get it. We all competitors. I mean, I know. I'm a competitor. Most of us that have either a love for a sport or have played the sport, you're competitive and you naturally want to win at everything. But you tried to upshow a young receiver and I kind of felt like it made you look like an ass. So we'll see how that goes forward. But I feel like from what they kind of put behind him in faith and giving him the keys to the ship and, let's be honest, y'all, the Saints are Raiders Southeast. The New Orleans Saints are the Raiders Southeast. Hell, they had John Gruden in there for, helping counsel and a coordinator or an advisor to the offense. Yeah, I mean, y'all putting it together. So this same project that was just ran in Vegas, a.k.a. Oakland, is now being ran in New Orleans. The difference is the defensive players are better. And the offense can actually move the ball. So, be that as it may, we're going to have to see. I mean, like I said, I don't know. But Derek Carr's going to have to prove a lot. Another thing, something that I think everybody's kind of forgetting about because he's so solid and he's a stand-up dude in the community, stand-up leader for his team, Cameron Jordan. I have a sneaky suspicion this is Cameron Jordan's last year as a Saint. He's either getting traded or he's going to be let go at some point after the year, after the season, this upcoming season. I just don't feel like he's going to be there long term. I still feel he's productive. I still feel like he can put up good numbers, but he needs to play for a contender. The Saints are the contender right now. The Saints are a young team that needs to rebuild. They need to retool. They need to refresh. And I don't want him to be Brandon Graham without a ring. Because, that's happened to a lot of great defensive players. We kind of forget there's a long list of guys that played well, did their job, did what was told, serviceable, honorable, no bullshit, no frills, and they ain't win shit. And now it's like, okay, well, yeah, he was great, but you know how it go. Having said all that, if the quarterback play is consistent enough, Derek Carr, they can win the division. I know everybody's screaming Atlanta, Kirk Cousins, and I get it. Kirk, serviceable enough. If he's just half of what he is, 75% to 80%, that team's going to be better than what they had with Desmond Ridder the year prior. But I need to reiterate, this Saints team was good last year. They suffered with injuries and inconsistent play. The offense can score with any of them. So it'll be very interesting to see if they can stay healthy and kind of put it together, how good that team will be going into the season. So be that as it may, looking at a lot of their top 30 visits, a lot of wide receivers. Tez Walker, guy from UNC, I touched on the prior episode, visited with him. They made a note to let it be known, so keep an eye on that. They also visited with Keon Coleman, my man from Florida State, and Malachi Corley, another name that y'all have heard. If you've been watching, following the episodes, Malachi Corley is a name from Western Kentucky that's been mentioned. He's been at a ton of draft day visits. High, late first round, high second round pick, mid second round pick at the worst. I don't think he's going to make it to the middle of the second round. I think he's going to be a late first, high second round pick. But he's also been in for a visit. They've had in several cornerbacks. Cooper DeJean has also been in for a visit with them. Jaden Hicks, safety from Washington's been in for a visit. So they've had some guys in there. They're definitely trying to make the acquisitions that they need for New Orleans to be competitive. And I respect it. I get it. Because, again, they should be winning their division. They have, I feel right now, Kirk Cousins, even with the ACL, is he a better quarterback overall than Derek Carr? Sure. Is Derek Carr got more fire in him and more believable? Would you trust the game in Derek Carr's hands more than Kirk Cousins? Yes, you would. They may make the same play, but it may go down differently. Or it'll be Derek Carr, because I tend to believe Derek Carr has had two things always going against him. He's never had a great offensive line. He's never had a great defense. Now, I know not everybody's going to have every damn thing laid out for him. Not everything's going to be perfect. But damn, I mean, every team he goes to, the offensive line is inconsistent. The wide receivers are good, but the offensive line is inconsistent, or a tackle gets hurt, or a guard gets hurt. Maybe it's him. I don't know. Hell, maybe he the jinx, but, it's real, So looking at it, at the free agent acquisitions to round up what they're trying to do for this point, up to this point in the offseason, brought in Chase Young, former Commander and former 49er from a year ago, who had, got some playing time in the Super Bowl, made a couple plays. They brought him in on a 1-year, $13 million deal, which again, I'm not mad at because I don't feel like you should commit to Chase Young long-term yet until he's actually proven, himself consistently and consistently can stay healthy. So I'm not tripping off that. They got Udo, tackle from Minnesota. Ugo Amadi, safety. They picked up also Cedric Wilson, wide receiver from the Dolphins. This guy, Cedric Wilson, Mr. Consistent, he'll play the backup role, play whatever roles, has something, does his job, hands down, no BS, no frills, no punches, pulled, just does what needs to be done. And also they picked up linebacker Willie Gay from the Chiefs, which I think was a great pickup because Willie Gay's been low-key a quiet, good linebacker, very serviceable, but I just feel like a lot of times he doesn't really get the credit and respect because, again, he's playing on the Chiefs and, you just put in anybody, but again, great pickup for the Saints and what they're trying to do and how they're trying to attack and go forward going into this season. The departures, again, some guys that they lost, you can see, Jameis Winston, long-term backup for them. He finally left, so good luck to Jameis. Hopefully everything works out for him. Lonnie Johnson, defensive back, he's been let go. Isaac Yayadon, he was let go. Zach Bourne went to Philadelphia. And defensive tackle Malcolm Roach is also departed. So the Saints are definitely going to have to make some additions and make some moves and definitely figure out how they're going to go about making more additions to better this team because a 9-8 season is not going to cut it. And Dennis Allen will be fired if the things that, need to be upgraded on this season aren't. I can promise you that. So having said all that, we're going to follow into the Indianapolis Colts, who I kind of felt like they was going to make the playoffs. I was pulling for my man Shane Steichen, former offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles from a couple years ago. I was pulling for Shane Steichen, was really hoping that, he pulled it out and made it, but injuries, inconsistent play all around just didn't help. But 9-8 in his first inaugural season as head coach. Rookie quarterback Anthony Richardson obviously suffered a early season shoulder injury, which caused him to miss the rest of the year. He should be back for OTAs at camp. Looks like he's been workout videos I've seen on X and Facebook. He looks like he's in shape and ready to go. So be that as it may, Shane Steichen, second-year head coach, offensive coordinator Jim Bob Cooter, who I thought might have been going to Philadelphia this year because there was a lot of rumors early in the offseason that he might be moved, but Jim Bob Cooter is there to stay. Gus Bradley, defensive coordinator, former Jags coach, you guys already know. Gus Bradley, household name, he's their defensive coordinator now for the Colts. Chris Ballard, GM. And I must say this. Howie Roseman always gets a lot of love. You hear Brian Gutekunst from the Packers. You hear about Kevin Colbert for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Used to get a lot of love. I'm trying to think of GMs off the top of my head. I know you used to always get high praise and love for whether they're free agent acquisitions or drafting or just how they ran the franchise. I give Chris Ballard all credit in the world because anybody who follows the Colts or is a Colts fan knows Jim Irsay is a fucking nut. Whether it was the prior, trying to be sensitive, prior sickness and affliction that he dealt with, or just growing up with a hippie mindset, which again, I don't knock hippie mindset, but working for that man is crazy, and some of the decisions he makes and how he can get off or on a player and sign a player to a big deal and make an inexplicable trade, i.e. DeForest Buckner to the Colts for a first round. It just, again, so shout out to Chris Ballard for dealing with that and putting up with it and being able to make smart, consequential moves to help the franchise move forward. Because I do feel like this team has a lot of promise and they're capable and primed and ready to make that 10-11 win leap. But again, we'll save that for after the draft. So nonetheless, the Colts have 7 draft picks going into this draft, $28 million in cap space. Definitely going to probably be some players after the draft, grabbing some guys. Definitely going to make sure that they have this money so they can make any acquisitions to enter their young players that they want to keep long-term following this year. So good to see that they're in good financial shape and what they're doing there. Interested to see how Anthony Richardson looks coming back off the injury. Like, he looked the part so far early last year, but very minimal game size. You know, we all know that it's a marathon, not a sprint. So going to have to see how that works out. The defense, as I say, needs to play better. 51 sacks, which was great, but cornerbacks, you know, were awful. So that's going to have to improve. Tight end play and wasn't great, and it's definitely a position that needs to be upgraded. You know, I know they grabbed Michael Mayer, but it wouldn't have hurt to have grabbed him and a veteran, you know, a solid veteran to really come in there and threaten and make him compete and step his game up, you know. Having said all that, Alec Pierce. You know, Alec Pierce past 2 years has been a 500-plus yard receiver, solid, does his job, you know, from Cincinnati, you know, does his thing. Having said all that, they're going to need him to elevate his game for this offense to take the next step. Now, I do believe some of that was Richardson not being in. Some of that was Pierce not stepping up to the plate the way he needed to. But if he's going to have any shot of being considered for a second contract or being considered a great player, it's going to have to be now. And again, he doesn't have to be. He could end up being a good backup, but he's not a number 2 wide receiver with consistently just putting up 500-plus yards when you have number 2 receivers now putting up 11, 12, 1,300-yard seasons. So they're going to have to get a little bit more production out of him. He's going to have to step up for them to make that ascent that they want to make. The O-line needs to stay healthy because that's just something that the Colts have been dealing with for a while. Offensive line play has just been marred with injuries. I mean, it doesn't matter who it is, can't stay healthy. So that's never good. They still are going to probably be in play for a wide receiver. I saw who they have. I saw the moves they made, and I get it. Michael Pittman's good. I get it. Alec Pierce is good, but I just feel like if you add somebody else to that room, even if the person's a lesser to Alec Pierce, maybe that person's not as dynamic or not as close to, you know, even being close to his level, bring this guy in and see what happens. See if he can threaten. See if he can play well. Because from there, you can just coach up and build from there. So very interested to see. Low-key, running back is a position of need, too. Now, I know they got Jonathan Taylor back last year. He came back off the injury, and, you know, he wound up putting like 800 yards, and, you know, it was all good. That equates to, at best, a 12, 1,300-yard season. I'm not saying that he's a bum, because Jonathan Taylor is a fucking beast. I mean, dude sat out, ain't really played like that, came back and was doing his thing. So he proved to me how great he is and how good he can be. With that said, though, he's getting older. And we know the game. And we know how this works. So running back is low-key a position in need. Looking at their free agency arrivals, they were able to bring in Joe Flacco from Cleveland. Joe Flacco's been serviceable since he left the Jets. He's been proving to people low-key he can still play the game. You know, so shout out to Joe Flacco and kudos to you for getting that contract, bro. They were able to also bring safety linebacker hybrid Ronnie Davis Jr. in. They re-signed him and also re-signed safety Julian Blackman, who, again, has been crucial, one of their best defensive players. Can't really argue any of those moves. Like I said, they're all solid moves, just like they made a year ago. Solid moves, even though they had to spend some money. Departures, Gardner Minshew, Zach Moss, and Isaiah McKenzie, who I think is going to prime to be a potential good player, special teams, or as a starter, he can wind up really hitting. And Jake Martin. So lost some talent, but not immense, massive, gaping, Jupiter hole size, asteroid size talent where it's like, oh my God, how are we going to replace this guy? So kudos to you on that. And kudos to the fact that they were able to make necessary, adequate, thought out acquisitions without blowing the cap. So, because I'm pretty sure, at one point they, Jim Irsay wanted them to blow the cap, but it ain't work out like that. So kudos to him on that. Top 30 visits to run this out as far as the draft coverage and who they brought in, who they've looked at. Only two receivers they brought in was Malik Neighbors and Xavier Worthy. Worthy may be there. Neighbors definitely won't. They brought in a ton of cornerbacks looking at. A couple names on top of my head. Jarian Jones from Florida State. DeCameron Richardson. They brought him in as well. Quantez Stiggers. You keep hearing that name from Canadian Football League. He came in for a visit. So ultimately it seems like they're trying to upgrade the defensive backfield and the defensive tackle position. Wide receiver, I think low-key is a sneaky need. That's why I think Xavier Worthy's there, because having Xavier Worthy with Alec Pierce kind of opens up the dynamic. Michael Pittman being possession and speed, Pierce being a little bit of speed, and a little bit being more possession, Worthy being speed, kind of balances it all out. So keep an eye on that. The Colts, like I said, they're definitely trying to improve the roster and make the strides they need to make. I ultimately just feel like, though, they played a lot of undisciplined ball last year to round all this up into a nice little bow. 95 penalties for 685 yards. So got to play better football. Got to play better disciplined football. Offensively, you were ranked 10th, 15th in yards. Defensively, 28th in yards. 28th ranked, 24th in yards. So got to be better overall on defense. And as I say, the defensive backfield is going to be a position they address. So shout out to the Colts and what they're trying to do and what acquisitions they're trying to make. I think they're going to be a player, but like I said, I'll make all my predictions for the team's records and outlooks, for after the draft. And to round up the show and bring it to a head, we're going to discuss the NBA play-in tournament. Guys, I can't stress to you that the games the other night is just so, like, as soon as the NBA playoffs start, I'm fucking there. Like, I don't care where I'm at, whether it's home, phone, tablet, bar, out with my brothers, out with my friends, wherever I'm at, I'm getting them updated. I'm tuned the fuck in because the NBA postseason is just, it's like college basketball on steroids. So I digress. Going into it, 7 p.m. game will be the Bulls versus Heat. Some of my quick analysis and quick takes, I think that, keys to the game. Jimmy Butler being out with the MCL sprain. The Heat, I know better than to just say flat out they're done, even though likelihood and my logic is leaning that they probably are done. But even if he has a chance to come back and play, they win this game tonight, they're not going to sustain without him. So might be best that they probably do lose the game tonight, but who knows. Tyler Hero is going to have to be the hero because no Jimmy. So team ball will be crucial for Miami. They're going to have to play together. Try to play as one as much as possible. No ISO ball, no individual game because you just don't have it. You can't really afford to even try or attempt to do it tonight, to be honest with you. And play tough defense to slow the game down. Without that, I don't really feel like you're going to have any shot. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm picking the Bulls. The Bulls are going to probably win this game. But, just off some of the things I've looked at, but, just for some of the keys for Miami to win the game, they're probably going to have to do these few things. And defense is one of them. Tough defense and just slowing the game down and keeping that pace to a minimum, making it frustratingly slow. So that way, you can pull it out in the end. For the Bulls, it's very simple. Attack the wings. There's no Jimmy. So DeRozan should eat. Case in point. More Vucevic. Body him on the boards. All they got is Kevin Love ain't what he used to be. He's still serviceable, but he ain't getting you 15, 20, 25 rebounds anymore. That's out. So Biaz and may body him, Vucevic, V for Vucevic. But anyway, can Kobe White keep the momentum up? 42-point performance 2 days ago. Great game, but they're going to need more of that or something, close to that for this team to win. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Kobe White raises his game for another game. And it's just crazy because I really feel like this game has the potential to be a blowout. And I really feel that way because, once I found out late last night, all right, Jimmy ain't playing. It's like, shit, Jimmy ain't playing this. But I just feel like Eric Spoelstra, he's going to have to go in his bag for this one. So we're going to have to see, this is going to have to be an Eric Spoelstra special type game. You're going to have to see him coach up some wicked stuff. And we know he's capable of doing it because he's done it when he had LeBron and Wade and Bosh. And he did it when he had Jimmy and this iteration of the Miami Heat. So get a man his props, give him his credit. We'll see what they can do. You never count him out, but it's just going to be very hard tonight without Jimmy to get this done. Having said all that, it leads me into finally the 9 p.m. game, which is Sacktown, like the beam. Sacktown versus the New Orleans Pelicans. Zion is out. So with that being said, Sabonis should feast. I don't see any reason why he shouldn't, with Zion being out. Brandon Ingram's going to have to raise his game, though, for the Pelicans to win this game. He's going to have a Kobe White performance from 2 days ago or a Steph Curry performance from last postseason in that Game 7 to beat this team tonight. Outside of that, I don't see the Pelicans pulling it out. And can they get that three-point shot going again? I mean, New Orleans, that last game, obviously they played the Lakers. 30% from three. I mean, the Lakers stifled them. You know, it was really 29.7, so the 30 is being generous, you know, the 3.3 percentage points, but terrible from three. If they're able to sustain that or just be consistent with that tonight, they have a shot to beat Sacramento, but without it, they're done. So, last but not least, wrapping up, touching a few things for the Kings. As I said, Sabonis should eat without Zion being in tonight. Should be light work for him because Zion has been giving Sabonis fits all year. So they need to continue their hot three-point shooting. Sacramento has been killing it from three their last several games going into the end of the season. Be interested to see how Malik Monk plays tonight. Be interested to see how the team just attacks from the perimeter. Is Keegan Murray still hot? You know, it'd be great. I doubt he is because, you know, it's all rhythmic, but it's definitely going to be somebody else. This could be a De'Aaron Fox or Malik Monk special, depending on how things play out. Attack the boards, as I previously stated. No Zion, should be no problem. And perimeter D will be crucial because I really feel like the Pelicans know that if they get down just a little bit early, they're going to need that three-point shot to hit. So perimeter defense and forcing them inside is going to be crucial. And that'll be it for today's show and today for episode 6. And I thank you guys so much for bearing with me. I know that the upload took a little while yesterday. And I thank you guys again for the ton of support and love for the show. And it's just been immense. And I'm going to continue to upload content and continue to provide this as much as possible. Like I said, I'll be making more additions to the show. Saturday, tomorrow will be kind of a freestyle type of show. Touch on some things that I wanted to touch on that I didn't get the chance to touch on throughout the week because we were reviewing, you know, the spring ball and the 32 teams and 13 days segment. So I'm definitely going to touch on some more Eagles topics tomorrow. I'm going to touch on some more NFC East theme topics, touch on some of the spring games and round that out for the week. And then I'll be talking to y'all again on Monday. So thank you again. As always, thank you for the love and support. I love y'all. I appreciate everything that y'all have done. Continue to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.